Thanks for your support as a channel member, Pulse Potato! The FIA have some big questions to answer following a dramatic Qatar Grand Prix. Hello folks, and welcome to my thoughts on the Qatar Grand Prix. The race has finished in the last sort of 20 minutes, and yeah, this is going to be potentially slightly more ranty sort of video because I am very annoyed with the FIA and the stewarding and race direction that we've seen today. It was a shambles. It really was a shambles, because never have I seen one tiny little wing mirror cause so many problems and dramatic moments in a motor race. I've seen it on the roads when driving, people not using their mirrors, and that causes problems. But the wing mirror falling off of Alex Albon's Williams causing a whole heap of issues. Before I get into that, let's first of all touch on the race winner, Max Verstappen. A phenomenal drive from the world champion, the Red Bull team taking their car from barely scraping a point in the sprint race on Saturday to winning from the front row on Sunday. He should really have been on pole position, but again, we'll touch on this in a moment, but some weird stewarding, the one place grid penalty. I mean, who ever heard? That's going to open a can of worms, isn't it? I mean, yeah, pick the bones out of that one, because he was obviously furious about it. I can see why, because one place? I mean, neither of them were on fast laps. Anyway, who am I to comment? I mean, I'm just a fan of the sport. I've been watching it a quarter of a century. I think I know good race direction from not good race direction. So stewards' decisions, hopefully. So let's get straight to the nuts and bolts of this. The wing mirror comes off. I can't remember what lap it was on, but it was at a point where the race kind of needed a bit of spicing up, and it certainly did that, didn't it? But really, should it have got to the point where a driver, which was Valtteri Bottas, drove over this piece of debris, throwing shards of carbon fibre across a very fast bit of the racetrack where they're approaching the braking zone for turn one, and it can potentially cause punctures, and did cause punctures. It really shouldn't have. This was exactly the reason why the virtual safety car was brought in after Jules Bianchi's accident in 2014, to sort of sterilise the race for a few moments and allow the track to become safe again. Because on that fateful day in Suzuka, had they had the virtual safety car, Jules Bianchi would still be with us, and he would probably have raced for Ferrari. Today, we saw a rather innocuous item, which the drivers always say, yeah, I can't see out of them, they're no use to me anyway, but they're on there for, I'm guessing, legal reasons. Lose a wing mirror, and it caused a lot of drama. The virtual safety car would have meant it could have been cleared up. The threat of any puncture or damage was cleared, and we could have cracked on with the race. And it might have even changed the strategy. Some people might have come in for a pit stop, some people would have stayed out. It might have given us something different in terms of what we were getting at that point. So it was really confusing how the new race director, his name's escaping me at the moment, why he didn't call that VSC. That's exactly what it's for. Now, after Bottas hit the wing mirror after being lapped, while he was being lapped by Piastri and Leclerc, he obviously scattered the debris everywhere. It led to punctures for Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton, who were the next two cars on the road. Now, having seen their onboards, it's questionable whether the debris did lead to those punctures, because they were running the tyres long into their life. But they happened on the same lap. They happened immediately after the Sauber went over the wing mirror, and yeah, they were pretty instantaneous in that sense. So yeah, I think if we put 2 and 2 together, we can come up something close to 4 in that sense. But here's where that problem can also manifest itself in a much more dangerous way. Fortunately, the tyres let go pretty much immediately, just before they got to the braking zone. But if they had let go, say, in the triple right-hander, very fast section of the track where you're putting the front left tyre under enormous load, or even the double left at the end of the first sector, we could have had a much more dangerous situation for both those drivers. It could have been a big accident, and then you're really asking questions. Why was debris left on the track? Why was it allowed to happen? I think we still need to answer those questions, because you've got two cars that are running at vastly reduced speed, trying to stay offline, trying to stay out of people's way. It's not easy because the closing speed is very big. And even with Gasly, I think it was trying to get past Hamilton. They were close. I don't know whether there was ever any danger in that, but you don't want that situation to lead to any problems, because that's where you have cars going up in the air, and these cars, as much as we say they're like upside down aeroplanes, they're not designed to fly. So FIA, you need to get your stuff in order, because this cannot continue. We've got 1 week in COTA where certain decisions are made, and the next week in Mexico where different decisions are made, and I get that you're going to have different referees for different events, like in football and in rugby. They're all going to see things differently, but also where you can, you need to have slightly more black and whiteness on the penalties. And also, I think the harshness of the penalties today, some of them were incredibly harsh. And going back to the wing mirror situation, they were covering that section of the track under double wave yellows. I mean, who's ever heard of a straight, the middle of a straight, being covered under double wave yellows? Not this guy. And like I said at the start, I've been watching Formula One for the best part of a quarter of a century, well, over that now. So Lando Norris ended up getting slapped with a 10-second stop and go penalty for not lifting for yellow flags, which in that situation he was banged to rights to. He did commit that offence. A stop and go penalty, 10 seconds? Really? Not sure that's quite the penalty that we've seen dished out for that. The stewards have a lot of penalties at their disposal. I don't think that was the right one. I think, a 10-second one was harsh enough. It probably drops him a couple of places, but yeah, one wing mirror leading to several races being unravelled for Sainz, Hamilton, and Lando Norris. And also, it's dangerous lifting in a straight, isn't it? Because if someone lifts a bit too much and someone behind lifts a little bit and kind of enough but closes in, and bang, again, you've got a situation where cars can be meeting in the middle. So just throw the virtual safety car, slow everybody down, everyone sticks to a delta, get the piece of broken car off the track, remove the VSC, and crack on again. It's really simple. David Croft on Sky Sports said it's a difficult job being the race director. It is, if you make it so. If you have clear decision making, you know exactly what you want to do in a situation, and you make your decision and you stick by it, I think people will accept that you made a mistake. If you go, yeah, that's what I was thinking, that's what I wanted to do at that time, it was an interest of safety. Yes, fine. Because we had the situation in Brazil where we had a car in the wall and some drivers were allowed to finish their laps. Obviously, Red Bull weren't happy about that because it led to Verstappen being eliminated. He did later to go on to win the race, of course. But it's just almost a lucky dip. And we can't have that. It cannot be a lucky dip. The teams cannot operate like that because they need to know what they need to do on strategy. And it's, as a fan, it's really sort of like you see a car in the wall, you know that's probably going to be a safety car. Gone are the days where we leave cars on the side of tracks. If you look back at races from the 80s and the 90s, you'd see cars on the side of track just left because their engines had blown up or wheels had fallen off or something like that, because that was the done thing back then. We've come a long way since then, but I just thought tonight there was an element of safety that was compromised, and that's not on. The stewards handing out some very harsh penalties. Like I said, Lewis Hamilton speeding in the pit lane. You bang to rights for that, let's be honest, but we've seen this before, and drivers have got 10 seconds for it. A drive-through penalty? That used to be like the only option available to the stewards. If you committed if you caused a collision, I remember Mark Webber 2009 at the Nürburgring. If you haven't watched that race, go and watch it back. It was literally a phenomenal drive from him. He won the race despite a drive-through for banging wheels with Rubens Barrichello at the start. it's fairly innocuous stuff. He got a drive through for it. It used to be incredibly harsh. And I think the driving standards were much higher then, because drivers knew that if they put a toe out of line, the hammer would come down and they would be, their race would be ruined. Nowadays, you can shove someone off the track, get 5 seconds, get up the road. You can abuse that. They tried to bring in the 10 seconds to stop that happening. It still happens. Still see drivers shoving each other off the road when another car is entitled to be there. You can look around the outside and you can leave space. We've covered this conversation before. You don't need to shove people off the road. It's really not necessary. And I think that the level of stewarding needs to be stronger. We need professional stewards. These amateurs, I say that, well, literally they are amateurs. They're giving up their time, and it's probably not an easy job because you've got so many different subsections of the rules to go through. I've seen the rule book. It's not an easy read. It's technical and you need to understand it. But there is an element of, okay, well, this is the type of offence we're dealing with, and you sort of block it under that. If you're forcing a car off track, it's this. If you're causing a collision, it's this. And it just escalates. It's like it's a bit like red and yellow cards in football. They can be a bit subjective, but also in this, one of two things has happened. The car has gone off track, or it's stayed on track. You've caused a collision, or you haven't caused a collision. And it's up to the stewards then to decide on the ruling of that. So we need to professionalise that. We need to step things forward. But the FIA is a mess right now because they have sacked race directors and other experienced personnel. Mohammed Ben Sulayem is running a sinking ship right now because we've got a new race director who's race directing Formula One, very new to that, and then this weekend having to direct Formula 2 as well. Charlie Whiting used to do it, and he gave it up because it became too much, it just became too taxing. So yeah, you need someone, lots of experience, who knows the rule book, who can make strong decisions. I thought Niels Vitic did a good job actually in many respects, but obviously he's been booted out the door and there's been a few others gone as well. So yeah, you're going to see, I think, a lot of inexperienced decisions, and we're going to have to put up with this maybe for a little while. And the drivers want their say as well because they have to be heard. No, you're the participants. You compete in the rules set out by the regulator. That's the FIA. Obviously the FIA doesn't seem like it's doing its job at the moment, so it's just going to fan the flames of a potential F1 FIA split. Would F1 and FOM be able to run it on its own? You need stewards. Would they do it professionally? It could open up lots of doors, but this is a whole different tangent of conversation. Let's get back to the Qatar Grand Prix. Zhou Guanyu, Sauber, points! Yes! Yes! They finally did it. I'm so happy for Zhou because we know that Valtteri Bottas is a good driver. He'll probably find his way back onto the F1 grid. Sadly for Zhou, I don't think he will. He's a nice guy, but as the saying goes, nice guys finish last. And he didn't finish last today. He finished in P8. A wonderful job by him. And it was a weekend where the Sauber was quick and both drivers had the opportunity to score points. But I'm really pleased for Zhou because he's been labelled as a paid driver, but he's clearly got the talent. Obviously he's got the backing from China, but look at Sergio Perez. He's possibly going to be kept into the Red Bull seat because of his funding that he brings, and means that Red Bull, the company, doesn't have to put in so much money. So, paid drivers are everywhere. Lewis Hamilton technically is a paid driver now because he brings so much sponsorship to a team. The amount of money that Ferrari will make from having Lewis Hamilton in the team is enormous. So judge everyone by their talent and what they do on the track. And Zhou has done some good things. I don't think he's quite good enough to be on the F1 grid. I think there are better drivers out there, but it's nice for him to have his moment where he's the guy, and today is that day, and I'm really pleased for him. So well done to him, well done to Sauber for getting their first points of the season. So yeah, always worth sticking at it, never give up, and just keep working hard, and your moment will come. Shout out to Pierre Gasly, who is my alternate driver of the day. Obviously Zhou getting that vote by the fans today, and yeah, Pierre Gasly, 5th place. what a score for him and the Alpine team. I'm not quite sure where it puts them in their fight with Haas. I think it might move them just ahead, considering the gap between them following the sprint on Saturday. But what a drive. He held off Carlos Sainz to the line. So great effort from Pierre Gasly. He is, he's come a long way from the driver who was sacked by Red Bull midway through 2019. So all credit to him. He's my alternate driver of the day. Obviously, let me know who yours is in the comments, and I'm going to rate the race. I mean, normally a race of that chaoticness, you'd give like a 7 or an 8. I'm going to give it a 6. I'm going to give it a 6 because aside from the chaos, there wasn't a huge amount going on at the front. It was all a little bit stalemate. I think had Lando stayed in contention without the penalty, then maybe we'd have had a 7 or 8 race at the front, because I think Lando had the pace to beat Verstappen. It was just a case of getting the run on him. And yeah, it's very difficult to get a run on Max Verstappen and wrong foot him, but I think there would have been opportunities for Lando there. He showed late on that he was just blisteringly fast as he carved his way back into the points. So I'm only going to give it a 6. And obviously, it's still game on. I think it's 19 points between McLaren and Ferrari as we head to Abu Dhabi. It's them only now for the Constructors' Championship, as Red Bull have been eliminated from that fight at the top of the team's championship. So we roll on to the final round in Abu Dhabi next week, and one of the biggest teams in Formula One is going to end a championship drought. Will it be McLaren or will it be Ferrari? Let me know in the comments, and that is my rant over. So yeah, let me know in the comments who's going to be Constructors' Champions, your alternate driver of the day, and what you would rate the race. Thanks for watching, everyone. You're the best fans. It's bye for now. We'll be right back.